Hello Heavy Metal Maidens and Masters, I'm Heavy Metal Momma. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to the first episode of Transformation Tuesday. But before we get into that, remember, like this video, comment below to discuss the transformation, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and remember to hit that notification bell so that you can find out about all my uploads as soon as they occur. So back to the transformation. Today I am going to transform this size 14 black velvet cardigan that I picked up in a charity shop for £3.95 I think, into a bell-sleeved velvet cardigan that I can wear with some of my Kill-style bell-sleeve dresses. So this comes down to about 6 to 8 inches below my knee, so it's way too long. It's also way too big because it's a size 14, so I'm going to slim it down, shape it at the front. I'm going to give it a sort of pointed hem, so it's got an asymmetrical points on it, and most importantly I'm going to give it bell sleeves because at the moment it just has straight sleeves. So let's get on with the transformation. For this transformation you need the velvet cardigan that we're going to upcycle, a pair of dressmaking scissors or a pair of very sharp scissors, some dressmaking pins. You can use safety pins if you don't have dressmaking pins, whatever you've got to hand. A tape measure, again you could use a ruler, but it's not imperative, I just want to make sure that each side matches up. Some tailor's chalk, you can use a normal piece of chalk that you sharpened, or you can use a white eyeliner, and some shearing elastic. And of course my trusty sewing machine. Now I'm going to mark this up with the tailor's chalk on the carpet and cut it on the carpet because the carpet will grip the item and stop it sliding all over the place while I'm trying to cut it, whereas if I do this on the table it will slide everywhere and I'll end up making a mess. I've laid the cardigan inside out on the floor and I'm measuring up the dress that I want to wear it with to make sure that the longest part of the cardigan is no longer than the bottom of the dress. I'm now drawn a quick line across there. I'm checking it with my tape measure to make sure that it is the same on both sides. And now I'm drawing a line across to make sure that it never goes longer than the bottom of the dress. I'm now measuring up my necessary evil velvet cardigan so that I can get an idea of the shape for the asymmetric hem, using that as a template. I'm using my ruler to make sure I get nice straight lines and that everything measures up the same so I don't end up with a wonky hem. I'm now cutting the fabric, but I'm cutting it slightly lower than the line that I've marked because I want to make sure that I allow a seam allowance. I'm now cutting the back so that it is also asymmetric, and I'm just eyeballing that. Now I'm folding the lapels back so that I can get an idea of where I want the front seam to be. I'm marking this up so it is even on both sides and that I don't end up with a wonky edge. I've given it a slight taper at the top, and now I'm just using my ruler to make sure that everything matches up. Again, I'm now going to cut the seam just slightly to the left of the chalk so that I have a nice straight seam. Now moving on to the sleeves, I'm lying these flat and measuring up the arm. I made sure that the measurement for the sleeve to come out and billow out was exactly halfway, which was 23 centimetres on these sleeves. I'm now cutting the original overlocking off of the sleeve up to the point of the 23 centimetres. Now taking the piece of fabric that I removed from the bottom of this cardigan, and I'm cutting all the seams off of it so that it doesn't have any seams, but I'm leaving the hemmed edge. I've cut it into a triangle, and on both sides I'm making sure that the hemmed edge matches up. As you can see, unfortunately it wasn't quite big enough, and there's a small triangle at the top of the larger triangle that I need to place as an infill. I'm just marking this out with a piece of tailor's chalk by eye. I'm going to cut it out and then I'm going to pin it in place. This is to give me my billowing seam. When all of this is done, I pin all the edges together, ready to sew. I decided to do the inside of the sleeves would be easier using my overlocker as you get a much closer cut. So I'm using my overlocker to seam together all the pieces of fabric that I have just pinned. This was quite a laborious process as it wasn't just one triangle of fabric, but I eventually got there. Now I've got my sewing machine and I'm pinning the edges of the front lapels down to create the seam for the front lapels and the bottom hem. I roll the velvet rather than folding it and pin it so that we have a nice even seam. And now I just put it under the sewing machine foot and slightly pull the velvet, and it just gives it a lovely flat seam. Well, this is the finished cardigan. I'm really pleased with it, considering I've never done it before, I had no pattern. I'm really quite chuffed that, you know, the sleeves look amazing with these bell sleeves tops. It means they're really comfortable. I don't have to try and stuff them in, which is always really uncomfortable. And it sits really nicely. I think in the future I possibly will put a few elastic pieces here to just ruche it there, but it was proving way too difficult to get the elastic under the machine, the sewing machine foot, and pull it tight. I need to do some research into how to do it. If I do, I may well do a little update video and show you how I did it. I will get back to you with that one, but considering that this is just a top from a charity shop, I think it looks pretty good. I'm very pleased. I think that the seam came off really well. I wasn't sure how it was going to behave, but you just roll it and stick it under the sewing machine foot. It's brilliant. Between my overlocker and my sewing machine, a pretty good cardigan. I'm really chuffed, yeah. So there you have it. There's my bell sleeve top. Well, I'm pretty pleased with that make. It was more difficult than I was expecting. Shaping the sleeves was quite laborious. I think in hindsight, if I probably would have cut the V at the back of the cardigan, this V here where it goes up, I probably would have cut it so it came up more steeply, so that hopefully I could have given myself two triangles that I could have just put into the cuff and had a seam so that it was a triangle here and then a triangle on the back, rather than as it was, there wasn't quite enough material and I had to do a triangle like that and then a smaller triangle in. But that did mean then that I had the edging here, the seam edging already. So, you know, you live, you learn, but actually that may well have not been the most sensible way of doing it. This may have been the most sensible way of doing it. It was fun. The velvet behaved itself more than I was expecting it to, actually. Especially when I was doing the seam running up the front here. You just rolled it and pulled it tight slightly under the sewing machine needle, and it just sat flat and let you seam it, which was great. I definitely work with velvet again, although next time I might just buy a piece of velvet and make something from scratch rather than trying to modify something that I've already got, but that's for another video. So, like this video if you enjoyed the make, comment below, discuss with me, ask if you want tips, if there's something else you would like me to make, if you want to know any ins and outs of how I did it, or if you've got any suggestions on what I could do in the next video. Remember, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification button so that you can hear about all my new videos, and remember people, stay heavy.